Shalom, everybody. I make these videos to glorify my Father Abba in heaven and to also glorify Jesus Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach. This is video number 11, and in this particular video, I would like to talk to you about abortion and Baal worship. I understand, sometimes people get into certain circumstances and they feel as if they're not ready for a child, or even some people who become raped end up becoming pregnant. And of course, they don't want to carry the baby of the person who has raped them, so they feel like their only option is to get an abortion, which there are many, many people who are not blessed with the opportunity to have children, and giving the baby up for adoption would also be a pretty good option for some mothers out here. It's less emotional damage and it's less psychological damage on a person. This pretty much goes all the way back to Baal worship. Back in the ancient days of Mesopotamia, people would sacrifice babies to Baal, rather it was through a blood sacrifice or a burnt sacrifice. The Sumerians did it, the Canaanites did it, Phoenicians, the Egyptians, as well as the Aztecs and various people all over the whole entire world would partake in Baal worship. They would also do the same exact thing on Easter. Easter is where you get, it pretty much derives from the name Ishtar. Ishtar is the fertility goddess, which is where you get the name Easter. And usually what they would do, they would take their youngest or either their firstborn child, and they would kill the baby, drain the blood into a bowl, and they would take chicken eggs and dip the chicken eggs into the blood, and then they would take a bag home of bloody eggs, lay them underneath their pillow or underneath the mattress itself, and this was used as a fertility blessing, so that way they would be blessed with having more children. Instead of them just praying to God or going to God about it, they would partake in these Babylonian customs. They would also do the same thing on Halloween, which is what you call All Hallows Eve. They really believe in the cult practice in sacrificing children. They believe on All Hallows Eve the veil is the thinnest, which means there's more spiritual activity. The veil is at the thinnest, so therefore it heightens paranormal activity, spiritual activity. And the same thing on Christmas. December the 25th was actually known as Saturnalia, and they would also sacrifice children on Saturnalia. This is pretty much symbolic for the winter solstice, which is when the sun would be at its brightest. This goes back to worshiping the sun as they would usually do back in the ancient times, and they actually still do today, unbeknownst to a lot of people, worshiping the sun, especially back on Christmas, Saturnalia. They would also sacrifice children on Christmas. That once again, the veil is the thinnest, the sun is the strongest, and it also pretty much symbolizes a heightened spiritual activity. I would also like to point out that, and I've actually went online to abortion statistics, and I've gotten some facts here. The abortions that took place in the year 2017 is a whopping 879,000 abortions just within that year alone. And it does look like from the statistics that they are gradually going down. But however, rape victims were the lowest group to receive abortions, with a 0.5 percentile. More than likely, according to the statistics, the majority of women who received abortions were somewhere in their mid 20s or 30s, and they also felt as if they were not ready for a child. Minors who are about 14, 15 years old, they also make up a very small percentile, which is at 10%. African American women were at 28% versus white women who were at 10%. And if you'll pay attention, you see a lot of Planned Parenthoods in the more urban areas. I have yet to see a Planned Parenthood in the suburbs. Once again, this all goes back to Baal worship. There is nothing more sacred than the bloodshed of an innocent child. There is a woman who wrote a book. Her name is Marina Abramovic. She is an Illuminati priestess, and she wrote a book called Spirit Cooking. And in this book called Spirit Cooking, she said demons, even though they are not solid, they still need something to feed off of. And they feed off of sound, light, and emotion. Therefore, when she said the spirits need something to feed off of, they feed off of light, because the Spirit of Jesus Christ dwells within you. The Holy Spirit dwells within you. So therefore, there is life in the blood. There is life in the blood because there is light in the blood, because the Spirit of Jesus Christ, the Holy Spirit dwells within you. So therefore, not only is there life in the blood, there is also light in the blood. And even though we may not in a spiritual sense see these demons feeding off of the light or the life in the blood, once again, we are physical beings. We are spiritual beings having a physical experience. There are two different worlds. There's a physical world and there's a spiritual world. Every time that there's bloodshed, rather there's a stabbing or a shooting, demons feed off of that blood unbeknownst to us. We don't see it because we necessarily don't see things in the spiritual, see things in the physical. But there are most definitely demons that feed off of blood, because the life is in the blood. And I'm not making this video to condemn anybody who has received an abortion. This video is not to condemn you. It is literally just to spread awareness. I really do believe that for those women who have had an abortion, just pray to God about it and He'll forgive you. And I also believe that if when we die and we go to heaven, that all of the babies that were aborted will be in heaven waiting for us and will be reunited with their mothers. I believe that God is so gracious that He allows these things to happen. So once again, I'm not here to condemn anybody. I'm just here to spread awareness. So pretty much what we, call abortion nowadays is the ancient form of Baal worship, the sacrificing of children. They did this in all over the world in ancient times, in Babylonian times, and these customs spread like wildfire everywhere else. I actually had an experience myself where I'd gotten pregnant by a guy that I was dating, and I was, kind of going back and forth because I knew at this point, I hate to say this, it was a bad relationship. It was a pretty abusive relationship, and I didn't want to be with him. And I'll never forget, I called Planned Parenthood to schedule an abortion for me to come in, and I cannot remember the lady's name on the other end of that phone. I think her name may have been Martha, if I'm not mistaken, and she actually talked me out of it. She actually, asked me a couple of questions. Well, how old are you, and why is it that you want to get an abortion? You feel like you're not ready, or you just don't want to be with the person that you're pregnant by, which is what it was. I didn't want to be with the person I was pregnant by. And she said, well, this may be your only opportunity in life to actually have a child, and it can be a beautiful thing. It can really be a beautiful thing, and I believe a lot of women should embrace it. And I'm not even kidding. When this woman talked to me, I broke down in tears. I broke down in tears because deep down inside my heart, I didn't want to do that. That was something that was gonna plague me. It was gonna be in the back of my head. I really didn't want to do it, but I just kept thinking, my life is never going to be the same. I don't want to be a single mother. But there are plenty of guys out here that wouldn't mind being a father and stepping up to the plate. I had a relative, I won't say who, but I do have a relative that received an abortion, and a couple of friends as well. And I can tell anytime the topic of abortion comes up, they get very emotional about it. They get emotional. There's some kind of psychological damage there. And, this is something that is always going to be in the back of their mind that they have to deal with. Now, once again, I'm not here to condemn anybody. I'm just here to spread awareness. Just pray to God about it. Pour your heart out to him, and I'm more than sure that he will forgive you of everything that you have ever done. But I just wanted to make this video because it's been passed into law that you can now receive an abortion with the fetus being all the way up a full term 9 months. I'm really against that. Now, if people want to exercise their right, they're pro-abortion, that's fine, that's on you. But however, especially if a fetus is up to 9 months old, I mean, it's really not even a fetus at that point. It's a full grown, I mean, it's a baby. And I believe that there would be less psychological damage if you just went ahead and carried the baby full term, had the baby, and just placed it up for adoption. Just, give that child the opportunity to live. It's really not its fault that we don't use protection, and it's not the child's fault that the mother may have been raped. Now, I don't want to ruffle any feathers, or I don't want to upset anyone with saying this. My opinion is just one person's opinion, but at the end of the day, God sees all, and he knows everyone's heart. And I'm not here to condemn anybody. Just pray about it, and you'll be forgiven. So, and I would also like to add that not much has changed since the Babylonian times, pretty much the times of the Bible, back when the Canaanites reigned in kingdom, the Babylonian times. Not very much has really changed since then. A lot of those customs we still do today. We still celebrate what you would call Easter. I call it Resurrection Sunday, but the vast majority of people call it Easter Sunday. And that, like I said before, it comes from the word Ishtar, who is the Babylonian fertility goddess. And we still dye chicken eggs today, except we don't use blood. We use food coloring, which it's still the same. It's still the same customs. Back then they would, drain the blood in a bowl, dip chicken eggs, take them home, put them underneath their bed, and they would have sex literally like jackrabbits to fulfill this fertility blessing, which is why Easter that we celebrate today is synonymous with not only eggs but the Easter bunny, because the Easter bunny literally represents the orgies that people would have. They were literally having sex like jackrabbits to get pregnant, to fulfill this fertility blessing. So that's how they fulfilled their fertility blessing on Ishtar, and also on Saturnalia, which is on Christmas, December. I believe it was like a week long, from December 17th through the 23rd. Pretty much, Saturnalia derives from the word Saturn. The Romans would worship the planet Saturn, which is actually a play on the name Satan. Once again, they would sacrifice children. This represented the winter solstice. It had a lot to do with blood sacrificing, and also to for the spirits in the afterlife, or something like that, along the same lines as what the Egyptians used to do. And also, if you take Saturn and Satan, it's a play on the name Satan, but Santa, if you actually take the N in the word Santa and move it till the end, it actually spells Satan. So, I don't think that's a coincidence at all, that Santa, if you take the third letter, which is an N, and move it to the end of that word, it represents Satan. And once again, on Christmas, they would bake hot cross buns to the Queen of Heaven. Let's see, I took a few notes here. Nimrod, when he was killed, his blood was spilled on an evergreen stump, and supposedly a Christmas tree sprouted overnight. And also, when you are putting your presents underneath a Christmas tree, you're actually bowing down, and you're not supposed to bow down to no one, to no other man, to no one but God. And also the star at the top of the evergreen tree, if you turn it upside down, it's actually a Baphomet head. A 5-pointed star upside down is a Baphomet head. And once again, one more thing I would like to point out: the Christmas wreath that is hanging up outside of your door, actually, not only does it represent the sun, because it's in a circular, in a circular shape, it not only does it represent the sun, but it also represents the womb, which is Nimrod being reborn as Tammuz. If you've looked into the history of Semiramis, Nimrod, and Tammuz, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And his birthday was on December the 25th. So and there's also some symbolic esoteric, not Gnosticism, as far as the mistletoe is concerned. It's kind of slipped my mind right now, but if I remember later on today, I'll make sure to add it to the end of this video. But you pretty much, you hold up the mistletoe and you kiss someone. I forgot what the symbolic meaning of the mistletoe is, but it's kind of like the same thing as the Christmas wreath hanging up outside of the door. Now, my personal opinion, I do not believe that Jesus Christ, as a matter of fact, I know that Jesus Christ was not born on December the 25th. It says that he was born somewhere in fall. Once again, back in those days, he couldn't have been born in a manger in December. He would have froze to death as a little baby. They couldn't, Mary and Joseph could not find an inn. They could not find a hotel to stay. And he was pretty much born in a manger. It was so cold outside that time of year that there was no way any baby could have been born outside in a manger. My personal opinion, I believe that he was born on September the 11th. Oh, thank heaven for 7-Eleven. Where does that saying come from? And I'm not talking about just the convenience store. Oh, thank heaven for 7-Eleven. Because this is the day that Jesus was born. Now, remind you that our calendars and our times were changed from, I think it was a lunar schedule. It was a lunar schedule. I really can't remember. But, however, our time is literally like 2 months behind. The word sept, S-E-P-T, which is where you get the month September, in Latin means 7. Oct, O-C-T, anything, octogram, octopus, anything that's having 8 sides. So therefore, October is really the 8th month, and September is the 7th month. But the Romans, the Catholics changed our dates and times. So now September is pretty much 9/11. And September is the 9th month and October is the 10th month, but September is supposed to be the 7th and October is supposed to be the 8th. Now, I do believe that his birthday is on September the 11th because the Roman Catholic churches, they have these chalices. They have these fancy looking cups that have IXXI on it, which in Roman numerals is September the 11th. Not only to mention the fact that, a terrorist attack was orchestrated on this country. I'm not going to get into it. If it was a real terrorist attack, if the government was behind it, you guys, it's not a secret anymore. And I believe that this was orchestrated on his birthday because there is a cup of iniquity that they are trying to get to overflow. If they can get this cup of iniquity, which is a chalice, a Catholic chalice, if they can get this cup to overflow full of iniquity, it's like it hurries their God back. It gets their God back here faster. And also, if you read in Revelations, the great whore Babylon, she had all of the nations drunk off of her wine, which is also a chalice. Now, I'm not here to tell you you shouldn't celebrate Christmas, you shouldn't celebrate Easter, you shouldn't celebrate Halloween. Everybody has their own personal opinion. And I understand that people have children and they want their kids to have, a good, you know, childhood memories and things like that. So I'm not here to tell you you shouldn't celebrate these holidays or not, but I don't think that Father God in heaven, Abba, and Jesus Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach, would want us partaking in these Babylonian customs, especially nowadays we know what the meaning behind these Babylonian custom holidays really are. But once again, teach his own. Everybody has their own personal opinion. So this is video number 11. I make this video to glorify my Father Abba in heaven and to glorify Jesus Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach. And stay tuned for video 12. I love you guys. Shalom.